Welcome to Bianchi Law Talk, Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Today, the topic is going to be how President Trump and Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen may be saving our criminal justice system. Hey, I know this is going to be a controversial topic. All week I've been on the major networks talking about this, and there's so much vitriol here because people are politicizing a lot of the legal discussions. And I think it provides an opportunity for discussion here. People seem to be extremely offended on one side with respect to the investigation that's going on and the Mueller probe and believing it's unfair and critiquing the institutions as the president has repeatedly done, tearing them down, if you will. Some people believe that's right. Others believe tearing down those institutions is wrong. And you know what? They're both right and wrong. Unbridled power given to prosecutors and law enforcement officers, and I was one for much of my career, can be a bad thing. Now, I don't believe personally that President Trump is doing this because he has a high-level idea of trying to revamp the criminal justice system, because as I said this week on TV, since there's such a concern, this Justice Department under Jeff Sessions has instituted some very draconian criminal justice policies that require all defendants plead guilty to the highest level, most readily provable offense. Prosecutors hate this because it takes away their discretion to use judgment and balance and mercy and compassion and context of a particular case, so that you don't always have to, as I often use the expression, hit a fly with a sledgehammer. So there is a contradiction in the administration with respect to one part of the administration, which is tough on crime and hammer everybody as hard as you can. And then the administration itself that's under investigation that believes it's being treated unfairly. Okay, listen. I know my friends Mark D'Annunzio and Mike Tester on. Again, this is not a political issue, but what President Trump and Manafort and Cohen are doing is bringing out an important topic. How are people being treated in the criminal justice system? Their desire may not be for that laudable reason, but nevertheless, we don't get bigger muscles unless we work out. And this is working out in the public arena for the first time. People are paying attention to the disparities in the criminal justice system, to the in different ways that cases are handled in the criminal justice system. In fact, some opine that these offenses are minor offenses and shouldn't be prosecuted at all. So let me go to my experience now as a criminal defense attorney that does white-collar criminal cases. I give you two cases that I think will illustrate the point that these discussions that we're having right now are yeah, Mark says it's always political, and that may be true, but let's talk about cases that aren't political. I have a case where somebody applied for Sandy funds, and on the 50th page of the application made a ministerial mistake with regard to filling that form out. And to be honest with you, when we were told by prosecutors there was a mistake, we as lawyers had to look at it 4 or 5 times. We couldn't even figure out what it was that they were even saying, that there was a mistake that was made with regard to how the client filled the form out. Nevertheless, in a desire to show that they were tough on fraud with Sandy cases, this person who had never been in trouble in their entire life was charged, and they were looking to put the person in state prison. Again, I thought it was complete overreach in the case. I believe it was a mistake and not a crime. And the little guy never gets the attention. And that's why I like what's going on with regard to Trump, Manafort, and Cohen and the whole thing here, because it's shining a light on prosecutors in the criminal justice system, and especially with respect to how you get on their radar and what the consequences can be if you do. So I think it's a worthy discussion. We ultimately resolved that case for pretrial intervention, which is really a probation, and after a couple of years, if they do the right thing and don't get in trouble, which this person will never be in trouble again, the case is dismissed against them. But the case should never have been brought, in my mind, in the first place. Another case, a mortgage fraud case that we have, where an unsuspecting consumer was duped by a broker and people in the financial world with regard to mortgages, and she was classified as the victim of this fraud. It's a long story. It's a lot of paper involved in the case. And 2 people were arrested. And then out of nowhere, the prosecutor's office decides to drop the case against the one person who's a defendant and then charge my client alleging that they had conspired because their signature was on, again, a page of what they call a RESPA statement, which are hundreds and hundreds of pages that you've probably, if you've ever filled out a mortgage, they say sign here, sign here, sign here. But nevertheless, there was information, we believe, provided by the broker in a scam, which we will easily be able to prove. And the client just signed the document, not even understanding what it was that was happening. This happens all the time. But why did they decide to call our client first a victim, then a defendant? It's as random as that, folks. We're very confident, highly confident, but we have to go to trial on that case. It's cost our client thousands and thousands of dollars. Her job is lost. She's never been in trouble before. She has to file for bankruptcy and all sorts of things now because of this. These are the collateral consequences simply because, and you know what? Here's what bothers me more about that case. I can't even get into the door to talk to supervisors or the higher ups in the office to explain that there's a mistake being made. And I have a big problem with that. When I was prosecutor, not a single defense attorney in the 6 years that I was the boss was ever denied access to me if they felt that there was something one of my assistant prosecutors was doing that wasn't correct. This is what goes on in the criminal justice system all the time. You can go to one county and the same exact case is handled with a probation, go to another county and they're looking for 10 years in state prison. Or you can even be within the same jurisdiction and different prosecutors are handling the same cases differently. This disparity in the justice system, the cases that are brought in the justice system, the powers that prosecutors have needs to be revisited. So this is why I say, I am glad that what's going on, whatever your political point of view is with the Trump, Manafort, and Cohen thing, I just try to give the legal analysis about how prosecutors go about things, but it's been interesting to me because people feel that what's happening here is somehow unusual. And trust me, it's not unusual. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. So I think that this is an opportunity for us as citizens, people who are supposed to have checks and balances on the executive branch of government. It's an opportunity to see how prosecutors bring their cases, why they bring their cases. Many believe Paul Manafort never would have been charged had he not been associated with the Trump campaign. There could be a very legitimate basis for that. It doesn't mean Manafort didn't commit a crime. A jury came back and convicted him of a number of crimes. But nevertheless, he had been investigated previously and the powers that be chose not to prosecute him. Then all of a sudden there was a choice made to prosecute him. Again, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or not. If decisions are being made based upon politics, outright raw politics like that, that's a huge problem in my mind. So listen, I know these topics get really hot because no matter how much you try to keep them legal, people will be pretty much I'm a Trump supporter, therefore it's all bad, or I'm not a Trump supporter, therefore it's all good. I say the truth is somewhere in the middle, and it gives us an opportunity to revisit what is happening in our criminal justice system. And for that, I am glad. So listen, what are your thoughts? Bianchi Law Talk, 10:30 on Sundays. Please join the Facebook Live, Bianchi Law Talk fan page, and subscribe to my new YouTube channel at Robert Bianchi ESQ, where I post both informal videos and my formal media hits for the week. I hope you have a great week, and thanks for watching. I see Colleen's out there, and Marianne, and Jenny, and Mike, I believe, is still with us, and Mark D'Annunzio. Thanks, guys, as always, for your support. I'm really interested in what Michael Testa has to say. I know he's a very big Trump supporter, and again, I respect that. And I wish I had an opportunity to try to explain to people, by the way, even though I don't do political, I just do legal. I've had some fascinating conversations with some Trump supporters, and I think it would be, instead of people just at each other's throats all the time, it would be wise to sit down and get to the underlying reasons as to why people support and don't support. I did that last week with a bunch of Trump supporters, and I found it to be a fascinating conversation. I personally was not overwhelmed by either of the candidates we had to choose from in the presidential election. Nevertheless, it's interesting as to why it is that certain people support and don't support, and we're just talking over one another as opposed to trying to understand it. So, hey, thanks and have a great week, and we'll be back, I'm sure, with a lot more law and crime because I'll be on CNN tonight at 8 o'clock. If you have an opportunity to tune in, and we'll see you next week, 10:30, Bianchi Law Talk. Thanks.